In the wake of the Parkland, Florida high school mass shooting, the news is full of heated debates about gun control, mental health problems, metal detectors, arming teachers, even bulletproof backpacks. It's impossible to ignore the passionate voices of young people demanding their right to go to class and learn and grow in safety and security. Welcome to Take Notice. I'm your host, Dan Lawson, and today's program is about safety in our schools. The big dangerous threat in my school days was nuclear attack. The Cold War was in full swing. The next generation of students had a little bit easier. They focused on fire drills and in California, earthquakes. But for this generation, there are a host of new dangers. Fire and earthquakes are still a worry, but add to that chemical or environmental accidents, terrorist attacks, and mass shootings. And frankly, our schools need a plan. Well, fortunately, they have one. Or I should say, they have 5. The San Mateo County Office of Education has been working in partnership with the San Mateo County Sheriff, the Office of Emergency Services, the San Mateo County Police Chiefs and Sheriff Association, and a Community Emergency Response Task Force to create a standardized set of protocols for emergency response in K through 12 schools. That protocol is called Big 5. And here today to talk to us about the Big 5 is Nancy McGee, Associate Superintendent, San Mateo County Office of Education. Thank you, Nancy, for being here today, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Nancy, to start off, can you please give us an overview of the 5 protocols and situations that trigger them?
Sure. So the Big 5 is intended to be 5 immediate actions you take in any kind of emergency. We tried to simplify it for training and so that the community could know what was going on. The first protocol is called Shelter in Place. It's the least urgent of the 5. It is a response to an environmental hazard. So if there were a gas leak far away or smoke like coming from the Santa Rosa fires, for instance, our schools instituted shelter in place, which means they come indoors, stay out of the toxic air as a way of protection, but they're still learning and engaging in their work in school. The second of the protocols is drop, cover, and hold on. Most people who've lived in and lived through California know that that's the response to an earthquake, but also any kind of explosion or it's a protection of falling or breaking glass or things that are falling from the ceiling is drop, cover, and hold on. The third is an interesting one because it's a new protocol that many people don't have necessarily on the tip of their tongue, but it's called Secure Campus. Secure Campus is a way of protecting the school from a possible threat in the neighborhood. Let's say that there's a criminal act down at the shopping center and police are chasing the bad guy through the neighborhood. A school would go into Secure Campus, which simply means everyone goes indoors, the doors do lock, and then learning and work continues to go on. So there's a limited interruption in the learning process, but also everybody's already in a protected environment in case that bad guy wanted to jump out of the car and run onto a campus. The next one is lockdown barricade, which we know is the one that we would use for the most severe threat. If there's a violent intruder of any kind on the campus, lockdown barricade is when you institute the full-blown protocol where lights go off, blinds go down, you're hiding away from or out of view. And we know that when in any of the mass shootings that we've seen across the country through time, people who are behind locked doors do not get hurt.
Right.
So we do want to make that happen quickly. And then the final protocol is evacuation. And many people understand that we do fire drills, but we use the term evacuation because evacuation is how do you easily and safely move people out of a building, maybe even off campus to another location, if it's in the case of a fire or after another emergency.
Great, that was a great explanation.
Oh.
And I think I got all 5 down. So it's on everybody's mind. So let's get to delve a little bit deeper into the active shooter. So what are the specifics of the Big Five protocol for that situation?
Well, one thing about the Big Five is you can have the 5 protocols and you can have their steps for teachers to take and administrators to take, and then there's community information for them to understand what the different protocols mean. But in an actual event, we need to remember that emergencies are unexpected, they're chaotic, dynamics can change very quickly, and so everything that we train teachers and administrators to do is with a think on your feet attitude. So you have to be able to, you can follow the protocol, but you also have to be able to respond to different circumstances as they happen. But in a violent intruder incident, teachers would immediately, shepherd students inside into the nearest classroom. They would lock the doors, lights go off, blinds go down, and everyone would be very quiet and hiding out of view. And then you stay in that protocol until, in a lockdown barricade, you are only released from that with law enforcement with keys. So you wouldn't be opening the door, just knock knock, it's over. It would be serious enough that law enforcement would have to work with administration to get the keys and then go door to door. And that's another way to also help people be responsive, is knowing that that whoever's opening the door is the good guy.
Right. And do you get into any specifics about that, like putting a card or a police card or something like that under the door to when it's time to open up?
No, we assume that we use the protocol of the only locked, someone with keys is going to unlock the door, because those are people who have the authority and access to the keys.
That's good.
Any other communication tool could be something you might not trust.
Right.
And it's worth taking a little bit of extra time to be released from a lockdown barricade to ensure that everyone is 100% safe.
Right. Sounds good. I know we all know that the success of any of these plans depends upon the training. So for both staff, students, and I know this is a challenge because students are in school to learn, and teachers are there to teach, and it requires time and quite a bit of training. Every semester possibly. So tell me a little bit about the training.
Well, one great thing about the Big Five is we do start even in preschool. We've trained preschools, and certainly from our K-12 population, but as students with a common emergency plan across the county, in any school district, in any private school, if that school is implementing the Big Five, then they learn it as they go through the grades. So you can get more sophisticated with the kinds of information that you share and the ways in which students think to respond as they go through the different levels. But we train at the County Office of Education with our partners, law enforcement. We use the Sheriff's Department and various police departments, and the fire service also as a support in this work. We do about maybe 5 to 10 trainings at the county office over a course of a year, but we'll also go out to a school. In fact, we have districts who do county or district-wide trainings, and they'll do them without students present, so that staff can just focus on what it is that they need to do without worrying about managing and controlling the students in a drill or a practice. That allows the adults to process the information and really learn the protocols, and then they will obviously do their drills during the school day with the students.
Do you get any drill down a little bit more with regard to, suppose somebody gets into a situation where they're not secured? Do you get into like a run, hide, fight situation? Because it's great, you get some people into the classroom, that some are locked down and others are left outside and possibly not, don't know or can't get into some of the secure areas. And
absolutely, that's what the Think on Your Feet protocol is about. And rather than say run, hide, fight, we say think on your feet. And we do empower teachers to make decisions that if you're a PE class out on the field and there's some kind of violent intruder in the campus, we don't want them to come
to the
in.
campus,
right? We want them to go immediately off campus, and the school has already identified assembly areas or places for them to evacuate to. And as far as hiding, I think we do train teachers to know your space, both inside and outside your classroom space. And that's something that we have to work on at home too. I think parents can do some of this work at home because, you know, these things are not, unfortunately in the world today, these are not limited to school environments, that we can be out in the public and have to respond to an emergency. Even if it's an earthquake, we might have to think on our feet and respond differently based on what is happening.
That's true, right. And you alluded to it a little bit already and addressed it somewhat already, but what's the importance of the county-wide protocol?
Well, you know, San Mateo County is a vast county from, you know, Menlo Park all the way to Daly City and Half Moon Bay all the way to Redwood City. So that's a lot of different communities, and each community has its own personality and culture. So it wouldn't make sense for 23 different school districts to have different language and different ways in which they interact. One of the great things about the Big Five process is that when we started this in 2013, we collaborated with all of our countywide partners, but in particular law enforcement and fire. And all 20 law enforcement agencies have support the Big Five. And so not only do the school districts follow the common protocol, but law enforcement agencies as well, because if there was a big event, they support and do mutual aid with each other. And so it's important because in an emergency, communication is number one. And we know that if communication is misunderstood or gets convoluted in any kind of way, then we put people more in danger. So we want that language really clear. This is what it means, and it's also important to parents. If they know the Big Five, across from they might have an elementary school student, they might have a high school student, two different districts, but these protocols mean the same thing from district to district. Parents can feel confident that their school is responding appropriately.
And I think you hit on a critical point, and that is the communication. It seems like that's in any of these type of events where things break down and where there's a lack of communication. People aren't communicating with each other. They don't get critical information. So that's good to hear. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when we started the Big Five, some protocols were using code words, you know, and secret language, and you know, we have substitute teachers and contractors and construction workers, and we need everybody to be very explicit about what is happening right now, so I know how to respond.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Are there any other efforts that you have in place to ensure student safety?
We actually do, and like I said, since 2013, we've been working. We developed the Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities. It involves our elected officials. After the Newtown tragedy, our elected officials, Congresswoman Spear, Supervisor Horsley, Supervisor Tissier at the time, and Sheriff Monks, County Superintendent Ann Campbell, convened all the leaders together to say, what can we do more to support youth in our community? And we developed the idea of safety nets. So emergency response in the Big Five is one safety net, but we also can do a much better job and have been working on coordinating the ways in which school districts support mental health needs for their students.
Critical.
And then we've also recently created a student threat assessment protocol, which is another safety net that we have established, as well as a suicide prevention toolkit. And those various safety nets all work. We feel like the more layers we have, the smaller the gaps that our students and our youth can fall through.
It sounds like you're applying everything we've learned from Virginia Tech. Yeah.
You know, we are cross-collaborative, multi-agency, county-wide cooperation, trying to do county-wide protocols. Our districts are really supportive and engaged in the work. And we're also rolling this out. Actually, the County of San Mateo adopted the Big Five as their emergency protocol for their employees. So if you work
Right.
in the
Any organization,
in a
yeah.
mental health clinic
Right.
for the county, or in Redwood City, a county center, and you're an employee, you utilize the Big Five.
I would imagine you would also have it for your admin offices.
We absolutely do.
Yeah, good.
And there's also industry and businesses that have been trained. San Mateo Police Department has trained various industries in their jurisdiction in the Big Five. So what we'd like to see is the community from, all across the sectors adopt the the common protocol. Yeah.
It's good to hear Chief Mannheimer is doing her job. So you already alluded to this and discussed it a little bit. Maybe want to get into a little bit more about what is your extent of outreach to the different level of schools participating in these program.
So when we started in 2013 with the community convening, every single district superintendent was present. Every single police chief was present. All the fire chiefs were present.
And when was this?
This was in April of 2013.
Wow.
It was called, the convening was called Beyond Newtown. And that is, we took a year after that event to work together to create all these different protocols, at least the Big Five and the mental health support work. And since that time, we've kept it going. The coalition has a steering committee. We meet monthly, and then we report out to our elected officials once a year on our progress.
Great. Now, how about other schools beyond the public schools? Did this program apply to private schools, Catholic schools, religious schools?
We've had great participation from our private schools. The Archdiocese of San Francisco has attended our trainings over the years, and they actually wanted to adopt the Big Five protocol, but they realize this is a San Mateo specific, San Mateo County specific, and they're in San Francisco and Santa Clara. But those are things for us to think about. After this most recent incident, we're getting calls from schools in Santa Clara County. We've trained schools in Monterey County about how can we also adopt the Big Five. And right now we're really focusing on making sure we're well trained and resourced here in San Mateo County, but we do try to reach out and help our partners as well.
Great. Now, how do parents come into play here? Is there outreach to them? And seems like it's a critical component. Yeah.
Absolutely. Parents are critical in an emergency, and they have a very important role. Parents probably need more training, and actually this year we've been focused on doing more outreach with parents, try and fold them in. We had some trainings with PTAs, but we have a community packet that we've developed that describes the Big Five language. We've developed it's available in 4 different languages: English, Spanish, traditional Chinese, and Tagalog. Those are all available on the County Office of Education website. If you search the Big Five, you would find them. And we want the community to understand, but we really want parents to understand what these terms mean, because they should feel comfortable that of what's happening at the school when they're in an emergency. Especially when it's about a violent intruder or some kind of crime occurring in the neighborhood. If a school is in secure campus, the parent should feel comfortable that they're taking necessary precautions, students are not in any accelerated danger, and they're already in a position to go into lockdown barricade if that was necessary.
Great. And you get this information on your website. And do you have any? I know it's always tough to get parents to workshops, but any workshops for parents, or just?
We do. We have one coming up on March 26th, actually, at the County Office of Education from, I think it's 8:30 to 1 o'clock. And it is open to, we're really trying to reach classroom teachers, because sometimes they don't always get to come to the trainings, and right now they're feeling like they want to know more. But we've opened it to teachers, bus drivers, substitute teachers, school nurses, all of those kinds of extra, or not extra, but support staff that are on a school campus, as well as parents.
That's good to hear. And how can people get more information about this wonderful program?
Well, certainly looking at the County Office of Education website, we have a search bar. You can search the Big Five. You can also contact me at the County Office, Nancy McGee, and we're happy to share. We are talking about having another large convening for the community. The school district superintendents are feeling like it's time to do another group gathering so we can have additional layers of conversation. There's been questions about how do we make sure that we have interior locks on all our doors and people are appropriately trained and things like that. So we will be having some community convenings and we will try to advertise them as best we can.
One last question, it just popped into my mind. Since this Florida incident, have you had any student interest in advocacy on any of your campuses? Probably more on the high school campuses.
Right, and we did meet again with the superintendents of all the school districts to get ready for all the different series of abilities for students to express their ideas. We want students to remain safe in these situations. We also would like them to stay engaged in school. So we're trying to develop walk-in activities where instead of their walk out, but walk in, so things can happen on a school campus, and that students have a variety of ways in which they can engage or express themselves. Some would just be remembering those that were lost in Parkland. And other students may want to be more passionate about their advocacy, but we're letting students take the lead on that.
Good.
Yeah.
And it's like any other experience. It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Great.
So one thing I did want to add is that after Parkland, we did learn that there are signs that students may be troubled, and there's ways in which you can protect against that. And we have a student threat assessment process now in place in San Mateo County. We've trained all of our school districts, and they have a level 1 process they can go through if a student inadvertently playing basketball makes a threat because they're mad about something in the moment. It's very, reactive and easily solved. They can go through the protocol there at the school. If they feel more concerned about complexities and feeling like they need more community resources, there is a level 2 countywide student threat assessment team that meets weekly. And we are there to support school districts and families, because what we want to do is we want to provide resources and support for students who may be showing signs of distress. We want to help them get connected in a positive way to the school community and make good decisions.
Great. To our audience, my perspective on this comes from over 30 years of public law enforcement, 40 years of teaching junior college, and 16 years as a chief of a university police department. Some social scientists suggest that these troubling incidents are a sign of a sick society and that we need to look at treating the disease, not the symptoms. Arming teachers and more people does not appear to solve the problem. Listen to our kids and treat this as a health epidemic. This will require government funding. And where do our responsibilities lie? Special interests or the general good? We could consider ourselves lucky. California has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and measures that are being debated elsewhere have been law here for more than 20 years. But across the state line, there's a whole new set of rules, and there are so many more unlikely but potential dangers. So we have to be prepared. And fortunately for San Mateo County, the administrators, the County Office of Education, the Sheriff's Office, and police chiefs, and emergency responders have put a lot of thought and training and preparation into the Big Five. And for that, we should all be grateful. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to like and share this video with your friends. Suggestions and comments can be emailed to the address on your screen. Have a safe day.